Okay, guys, you guys are doing great so far this year. I'm Brother Geddes. You haven't seen a video of me yet, so now you get to see me in a little box in the corner at least here for a few minutes. I just wanted to go through a few things with you guys just to discuss some things that either I thought maybe there was some confusion on, just to clarify, or things that as I've taught food safety classes in the past, that there's been confusion or people generally had a little bit of difficulty with. So this won't be long. It'll be brief. We're only going to cover about 4 topics. But I just thought these were important to just hit on real quick in case you guys had any questions on this. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is cooking temperatures. On our post about the cooking temperatures in the meats lab one this week, I noticed there may have been some confusion. So that's why I wanted to do this. So cook temperatures, pork, fish, or whole muscle beef, also eggs would fall into this category, are 145 degrees Fahrenheit. Where we had some confusion on this is people were talking about the ground beef being needed to be cooked to 145. That is not the correct temperature for ground beef. Once it's ground, even if it was whole muscle prior to, then it needs to go to the next cooked temperature, which is going to be 155 degrees Fahrenheit. And then, of course, your poultry is 165 degrees Fahrenheit. And all of those are holding for 15 seconds at that temperature. So pretty straightforward, but 145 if it's whole muscle beef or pork or fish, ground beef 155, poultry 165. On the whole muscle beef, if that meat's been tenderized, then that cook temperature would again need to be higher at the 155. Basically, on a whole muscle beef, the bacteria are only on the outside unless there's something that forces those bacteria down into the center of the meat. And then that cook temperature would go up. So if there's any more questions about that, please post them in the discussions boards. I'd be happy to answer that on the discussion board and help you guys out a little more. I just wanted to have a quick discussion with you on that, let you know that's what that was. So we'll move on to the next topic. Cooling. Okay. You guys seem to understand cooling really well. Basically, the reason I wanted to put this in here and talk about this is probably one of the most difficult things that restaurants have problems with. And it's also one of the most critical things for them to do correctly. You can imagine how hard it is to cool something like a big batch of beans, refried beans, for example. They're thick, they're dense. It just takes a lot of care to cool things properly. So parameters on that, you guys had this down pretty well. 135 to 70 in 2 hours, then 70 to 41 in an additional, and I put 6 hours, that's not correct. 70 to 41 in an additional 4 hours. Sorry, I put these slides together kind of quickly. So again, 135 to 70 in 2 hours, then 70 to 41 in an additional 4 hours for a total time of 6 hours on your cooling. Okay, so make sure we got that. I know I noted that wrong there. I'm seeing it now. 135 to 70, 2 hours, 70 to 41, additional 4 hours for a total of 6 hours. One thing to be aware of, if that food, say you've cooled for 2 hours from 135 and you're trying to get it to 70, and after 2 hours that food's only at 100 degrees. It's not a total loss at that point. You don't have to throw away that food. You can reheat it to 165 again. As long as it's been less than 4 hours, you can reheat it to 165 and then start your cooling process over again. So just something to be aware of on that, how you can correct it if you have an issue. Again, this is a crucial thing. It's hard to do. A lot of restaurants don't have the correct facilities, or their facilities are lacking a little bit, and it's difficult for them to do this, but they can do it successfully. It's one of the big things that I really work with my restaurants on is proper cooling. Next thing, I want to talk about reheating a little bit. So a couple parameters for reheating. Food that has been cooked, cooled, and reheated. And so real quick before I go into that, reheating for hot holding. So this is only if you're going to reheat that food and then you're going to hold it hot. This is not immediate service. So reheating for hot holding. Food that is going to be cooked, that's been cooked, cooled, and is going to be reheated must be heated to 165 degrees within 2 hours. Okay? Most of you got that down pretty good. This is the one that I think is maybe we missed a little bit. Food that is hermetically sealed, such as a can of chili, that needs to be heated from 135 up to 135 in 2 hours. So it's not the same It's not that 165 if it's a commercially processed type product and all you're doing is heating it up for hot holding. Then you only have to get it to 135 degrees within 2 hours. You don't have to get to 165. Last one is food that is being reheated for immediate service. There's no minimum temperature requirement. So the example I give there, say you're going to open a can of chili, and that can of chili is going to be served. If you're not going to hot hold it, you can eat that can of chili at room temperature. It's safe. It's not going to hurt you. You could eat it cold if it's something that you've cooked and cooled on site. You could eat that chili cold. It's not going to hurt anything. So if you're heating that up for immediate service, and some places will do this, if you're heating it up for immediate service, there's no minimum temperature it has to get to. You can heat it up to 120 degrees and serve it to your customer. It's going to be hot. They're not going to have any issue with it being at that temperature as long as it's for immediate service. So reheating, we're talking about when you're going to hot hold that product. So I wanted to clarify that a little bit for you also. Next thing is date marking. This isn't something that I've noticed you guys have had any issues with, but I just wanted to cover it real quickly because it's something that it's fairly simple, but when I was teaching food safety classes and when I've taught food safety classes, this is one thing that people sometimes have a hard time wrapping their head around. So basically there's 3 requirements that require a food to be date marked. It has to be ready to eat. That means it can safely be eaten as is. For example, that chili we just talked about, whether it's out of a can or something they cooked on site. It can safely be eaten cold. That means it's ready to eat. It doesn't have to be heated to a certain temperature before it can be served. So it's ready to eat. It's a potentially hazardous food, and it's going to be held for more than 24 hours. A lot of times restaurants will make stuff only for that day. So if they're only making enough food for that day, and I go into their refrigerator and I find a pan of, let's just stick with the chili. Say I find a pot of chili in their refrigerator, and they say, we prepared that today, we put it in there, we opened the can of chili, we put it in a pot, and we put it in the refrigerator, and that's going to be used today. It's the special for the day, it'll be gone today, then there's no date mark required. That would not be a violation at that point. So, ready to eat, 3 things. Ready to eat, potentially hazardous, held for more than 24 hours. Okay? And last thing is time as a public health control. First of all, they must have a written procedure for this and how they're going to do this. So this is what they're going to do here. A lot of fast food restaurants do this. Tomatoes are considered, cut tomatoes and cut leafy greens, cut lettuce, is considered a potentially hazardous food. So these restaurants, hamburger joints, they don't want to put cold produce, cold tomatoes and cold lettuce on a hot hamburger. Organoleptically, it doesn't taste very good. So they don't like to do that. So what they do is they will hold that at room temperature. That's perfectly fine as long as they have a written procedure. They can hold that food for up to 6 hours if it does not go above 70 degrees Fahrenheit. That's very uncommon. I don't see that. I don't know that I have anybody that holds for 6 hours because most of the time it goes above 70 degrees. It's very difficult for it not to go above 70 degrees if they're holding at room temperature. If it's going to go above 70 degrees or they can't guarantee that it's not going to go above 70 degrees, then they can hold for 4 hours without temperature control. One thing about this is once that food is out of temperature control and once you go down that road, you must either serve that food and it must be consumed within the time limit or it has to be discarded. So you can't pull that food out, say, okay, I got these cut tomatoes, I'm going to hold them. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That means I can keep them till 6 o'clock because it's going to be over 70 degrees. So we're going to hold these for 4 hours. Well, after 3 hours, it's slowed down a little bit. We're not really busy, so we're going to go ahead and put that in the refrigerator and keep it till the next day. Can't do that. You either consume it after 4 hours, within that 4 hour time limit, or you discard it. There's no going back to refrigeration at that point. So just one more thing I wanted to clarify for you. That's another thing that I see that gets confusing. I don't want to overwhelm you guys with a ton of stuff. I don't want this video to be too long. So that's about what I had to cover for you tonight. I will post this. This will be in your announcements. You'll see it there. If you guys have any questions about this stuff, please let me know. That's what I'm here. I can really help you guys with the food safety stuff. Obviously, that's what my expertise is in. The last thing I wanted to mention is There's a program that they use BYU Idaho quite a bit now. It's a new program this year, but it's called Zoom. It's a online meeting application. I've used it several times with different trainings and stuff I've had. It's a pretty good program. If you guys would like to, I'm willing to do a question and answer session with you guys. You have your final test coming up here pretty soon. I want to make sure you guys have a good grasp and understanding on things. So if you guys would like to do a question and answer with me, I talked about this in the written announcement also, I'm willing to do that. So in the discussion board, I'm going to post something on Monday that is asking you guys if that's something you're interested in. If you are, please let me know. We'll figure out a time to do it. It'll probably have to be one evening this week to fit it in my schedule, but I can certainly do that for you and answer any questions you may have if you feel like you have a need for that. Appreciate all your guys' hard work. We're going to keep going on this. You guys are almost there. One more week of hard work, and then your test is on the 7th week. That's all you've got left. Remember, 80% or better on the test. That gives you all the points. Under 80%, you do not pass the class. Take the test as many times as you need to get that 80%. Thanks for all the hard work, guys. Let me know on that question and answer. If you want to do that, I will do it. We'll take as long as we need to do that. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you on working this week.